we think about Urdu today, we usually think about poetry, but about 100 years ago, some of South Asia's most influential intellectuals were asking a different question. Could Urdu become the language of the future? Could it teach medicine, chemistry, engineering, law? Could an entire modern society be built through vernacular language? To answer that question, they built universities. To understand these universities and their implications, you have to go back to colonial India. In 1857, the British established the first modern universities in Calcutta, Bombay, and Madras. These institutions were a part of a broader system of English education that increasingly made English the language of administration, law, science, and government. But for many Indian intellectuals, they raised a different question. Could a society modernize without abandoning its own languages? One answer came from Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. In the aftermath of 1857, he believed that Muslims had fallen behind educationally and politically. His solution was Aligarh Muslim University. Aligarh's goal was not simply education. It was the creation of a new Muslim intellectual class. Lawyers, civil servants, journalists, politicians, people capable of navigating the modern world. And for Sir Syed, that embrace meant English education, because it was the language through which power was mainly organized. A few decades later, another answer emerged, this time in Hyderabad. In 1918, the Nizam of Hyderabad founded Osmania University. And Osmania asked a radically different question. Not how do we access modern knowledge through English, but why should modern language belong only to English? The founders of Osmania accepted modern science. They wanted doctors, engineers, economists, scientists, administrators. What they rejected was the assumption that all of this knowledge had to come through a foreign language. So they attempted something very extraordinary. Osmania became one of the first universities in the world to systematically teach higher education in Urdu. Medicine in Urdu, engineering in Urdu, law in Urdu, politics in Urdu. But there was one problem. The textbooks didn't exist, and a lot of the vocabulary didn't exist either. The language of modern science had to be built. To solve this, Osmania established the famous Translation Bureau. Teams of scholars translated thousands of books. New words had to be developed for disciplines ranging from chemistry to psychology. In many ways, it became one of the most ambitious vernacular projects in South Asian history. And Aligarh and Osmania were not enemies or opposites, they were simply different answers to the same question. And these weren't the only experiments taking place as intellectuals were imagining what the future would look like for Muslims in India. Universities became more than just a place of learning. They were laboratories for experimenting different visions of India. What I find interesting is that none of these debates were simply just about knowledge, they were about power. Who gets to produce knowledge? Who gets to decide what counts as expertise? Can people imagine a future in their own language, or does it always have to be borrowed from a colonial language?